Hello everyone, I'm Nalini Manik and this is part 2 of Insights Corner special mini-series Strategic Initiative titled Clarify Corporate Strategy and Identify Strategic Gaps. Now before we dive into part 2 of this mini-series, let's briefly recap the three main points from part 1 so we can provide context and continuation from one episode to the next. In part 1, we defined strategic initiative as strategic initiative is a corporate level special project carefully planned and designed by leadership to resolve a strategic gap, clearing a path forward for the business to now be able to achieve one or more of its corporate goals. 2. We differentiated strategic initiative from other special projects undertaken within the organization, stating that strategic initiative transforms the business in some fundamental way. Strategic initiative is an executive tool, and strategic initiative, most importantly, directly promotes the achievement of the business mission. And 3, our strategic initiative process. Now we have 7 specific steps in our SI process. Step 1 is to clarify corporate strategy. Step 2 is to identify strategic gap. Now please note that in this episode of the Strategic Initiative mini-series, we will cover Step 1 and Step 2 in a lot of detail. Step 3 to 7 will be covered in future episodes. Step 3, design strategic initiative. Step 4, evaluate and select strategic initiative. Step 5, plan and mobilize strategic initiative. Step 6, to execute strategic initiative. And Step 7, to operationalize your strategic initiative. In this episode, part 2 of our Strategic Initiative mini-series, we will go into details on Step 1 and Step 2 of the SI process. Step 1, clarify corporate strategy. Now, depending on your organization complexity, development, and maturity, the business may or may not have a well-defined or formal corporate strategy. By corporate strategy, we mean any of the following. The formal version of the corporate strategy normally includes the company's vision statement, mission statement, or purpose. The non-formal version of corporate strategy includes the founder's vision when he created the company, or the company's goal, what the company wants to achieve, or the business value proposition, meaning how the business creates value in the marketplace, or the competitive advantage, meaning how the business intends to win against its competitors, or simply the difference the company wants to make through its mere existence. You get the idea. We do not expect that all small and medium-sized businesses will have their corporate strategy well defined and properly communicated. However, that does not mean that you should skip step 1. If this is the case, it is even more important than ever to go through step 1 so you can clarify and communicate to the team what you intend to achieve through your special project or what you intend to achieve through your strategic initiatives. Plus, it's a win-win exercise to have a clearly defined corporate goal the entire team can rally towards. You may have heard me say, I like to define objectives for everything that I do. It anchors me to what I want to accomplish. This is important because as we get busy, deep in the weeds of any project, without an anchor, it becomes easy and justifiable for us to be pulled into multiple conflicting directions. Having an objective helps us stay focused on what we're working towards and recenters us when conflicting priorities arises. And believe me, conflicting priorities are abundant. Strategic alignment management missteps. History is a very generous teacher, providing ample example of management missteps and what we should do to avoid making similar missteps in our practices. 2 common strategic alignment management missteps are 1. Not having a clear objective for each and every project we undertake, and 2. The decision to pursue safe, low-risk initiative can be more detrimental to the business, even more so than the alternative, riskier projects. Now, both of these are lessons we can learn from Apple's history. You see, according to Forbes magazine, Apple's Inc. is the most valuable company in the world today, which is Q1 of 2022. And just based on that fact that Apple wasn't always as successful as today, we can learn from Apple's history. We strongly believe that Apple's success today is based on the fact that Apple is laser focused on its corporate strategy. You see, when Steve Jobs returned to Apple in 1997, he announced that Apple has lost its way, and his mission was to get Apple back on track with Apple's vision, meaning Apple's original vision, the vision Steve Jobs had for the company when he founded Apple. And second, he decided to ignore the experts and business gurus and cut 70% of Apple's product lines. This paid off significantly. In both examples, Steve had an objective and stayed laser focused on that objective. He was even quoted as saying, "We're gambling on our vision, and we'd rather do that than to make Me Too products." So, how can we, small and medium sized businesses, clarify our corporate strategy? To help, we have included NMCS 6-step strategic alignment process. Step 1. Write out clearly your business corporate strategy, whichever version of the corporate strategy you have at your disposal. Step 2. Unpack your corporate strategy by writing out concise statement on what you believe your corporate strategy mean, or what your corporate strategy is saying you should achieve as a company. Let's look at an example of how you can unpack your corporate strategy statement using Amazon mission statement as an example. Now we have to clarify, this is a disclaimer. This is strictly an academic exercise. We absolutely did not get any input from Amazon in this exercise. Amazon 2021 mission statement is, we strive to offer our customers the lowest possible price, the best available selection, and the utmost convenience. Unpacking the statement, there are 3 elements of importance. We refer to these as core goals. These are 1. The lowest possible price, 2. The best available selection, and 3. The utmost convenience. Core goals 1 and 2 are pretty straightforward. What about core goal number 3, utmost convenience? This is even more vague and can be interpreted differently by different leaders, meaning it is open to interpretation. The next step in our process, step 3, define success principles. Provide insights on how we can reduce expensive errors resulting from interpreting corporate strategy differently from our peers. Step number 3, define success principles. Now, given that every corporate strategy statement that I read has vague elements with room for interpretation, defining success principles is an effective way of translating vague elements of the business strategy statement into specific achievement statements. In an earlier episode of Insights Corner, Don't Get Hung Up on the Numbers, we defined success principles as qualitative statement defining or describing what success is. In sticking with Amazon's mission statement, let's see if we can add some clarity on what utmost convenience could mean using success principles. Some examples of possible success principles for utmost convenience include, however, this is not an extensive list. 1. Have an adaptable and easy to use user interface. 2. Having a bug-free software, meaning the users see nor experience any bugs in the system. 3. Amazon software is the most powerful software. Powerful enough so that users don't have to sit and wait while their transaction is being processed. 4. The processes and workflows built into the software is intuitive and hassle-free, meaning even my grandmother, if she was alive today, would be able to purchase items from Amazon. 5. Amazon provide free delivery both ways. 6. Amazon delivers goods faster than any of its competitors within each geographical area. I can go on, but I'm certain you can identify several other success principles for utmost convenience. Earlier, we said that success principles reduces expensive errors resulting from differently interpreting a core goal. We simply mean that each executive interprets a core goal and takes action to achieve that interpretation of the core goal without working collaboratively with his peers. Ultimately, this impacts the business because the company is pulled into different direction by different executives. The executives aren't wrong because, as we can see, there are no wrong interpretations. However, that leads to the next necessary step. Step 4, prioritize success principles. Step 4, prioritize success principles. Not all success principles will be equally critical to the achievement of the business corporate strategy. Therefore, it is important for the team to identify methods to determine which success principles the business will prioritize and pursue. To identify which success principles have the biggest impact on the achievement of the business corporate strategy, the team should 1. Identify criteria to rate these success principles, 2. Identify the rating system and weight for each criteria, and 3. Include other corporate strategy core goals as binary criteria, meaning 1 and 0. 0 meaning that if the success principle conflicts with another core goal, the 0 negates it completely, ruling it out as an option, regardless of how good an idea it is. And step 5. Select success principles with the highest rating, meaning select a success principle which, according to the prioritization exercise, will contribute the most to the achievement of the business mission. And step 6, define corporate goals. Now that you have identified with some level of specificity what the company will focus on, it is time to define your business corporate goals. Goals the executive team will take ownership of and work on together. Corporate goals that are SMART, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time based goals for the entire executive team. At this point, success principles and the details developed in step 1 to 5 now serve as a reference point to clarify elements of your corporate goals during execution, and as a reference for clarification when the business has to choose between multiple or competing options. Also, the details developed in step 1 to 5 ensures that all future discussions and new resources are able to follow the thought process on how the business got from its corporate strategy statement to the success principles and the corporate goals. Now that brings us to the end of step 1 of our SI process, clarify corporate strategy. The purpose of step 1 is to unpack the business corporate strategy and through a series of progressive elaboration, identify success principles and corporate goals the business agrees to and pursues. Step 2, identify strategic gaps. In Strategic Initiative Part 1, we defined strategic gaps as limitations that prevents a business from being able to achieve its corporate goals. We also indicated that this comes in various forms. Either it is something the business must first create or something the business must repair before the business can execute the activities necessary to achieve a corporate goal. So how can you identify strategic gaps? Thus far, we have defined success principles and corporate goals that are perfectly aligned with the business corporate strategy. A method used to identify strategic gap is to analyze the business current state and the ideal state necessary to achieve a corporate goal, and then to identify any gaps between the current state and the ideal state. To simplify this process, we developed a 5-step process to identify strategic gaps. Step 1. For each corporate goal, list out the critical requirements necessary to achieve that goal. Step 2. Cross off the critical requirements currently existing within the business. Step 3. Of the remaining items, categorize each as missing or repair and seek to find alternative solution for each. Step 4. Cross off the critical requirements with alternative solutions. And step 5. The remaining items are your strategic gaps. To emphasize, a strategic gap is something that must be created or something that must be repaired before, and I will repeat, before the business is able to execute the activities necessary to achieve one or more of its corporate goals. If the business does not bridge that strategic gap, the business will not be able to move forward to achieve that specific corporate goal. I would leave you with this cartoonistic representation of a strategic gap. Summary and recap. In part 1, we defined strategic initiative, differentiated strategic initiative from other special projects undertaken within the organization, and provided our 7-step SI process. In this episode, part 2, clarify corporate strategy and identify strategic gap of our SI mini-series, we 1. Discuss the importance of corporate strategy. 2. Discuss 2 management strategic alignment missteps that widens the gap between the business current state and its strategic path. 3. We used a 6-step strategic alignment process to unpack your business corporate strategy, extracting corporate goals. 4. Used our 5-step process to identify strategic gaps that are blocking the business from being able to execute the activities necessary to achieve its corporate goals. Please do not hesitate to revisit part 1 of the series if you think it is necessary. And if you have any question on either episodes, please do not hesitate to reach out to NMCS. NMCS contact us, and we will get back to you within a few business days. This has been your host, Nalini Manik. It has been my absolute pleasure to bring this strategic initiative mini-series to you. Be strategic. Cheers.